Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What's Going On in Banking. I'm Ron Shevlin, Chief Research Officer at Cornerstone Advisors, and joined today, of course, by my colleague, Stacey Bryant. Stacey, how are you doing?
What's going on, Ron? I am great. Just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago. So every time a new year comes, I just want to be much more intentional in what I do while having fun. So happy to be here. How you doing?
Well, happy belated birthday. Everything's great on this end. The summer is winding down. I don't know when people will be listening to this, but school will probably have started wherever you are and they are. So, gosh, it's always the most depressing time of the year when Labor Day rolls around, you know?
Why is it? Just because it's the end of the good life and back to work and back to, and then traffic all over the place because of school buses? I know that's the case with me.
It just marks the end of summer, and you look back and go, God, what did I do this summer?
I think you have to recap. I'll tell you this, though. This summer, I realized in the world that we serve in banking, I realized that I've become a little bit spoiled. And I say that because, as I mentioned, my birthday coming around, I had a little shindig at my house. And I was trying to order tables and chairs. Instead of just picking up the phone, I literally was looking for an Uber Eats to order equipment rental. And it was excruciating, Ron, to have to call and leave a voice message on an answering machine. So I'm not sure what's happening in the new generation. But I'll tell you this, I see a need for small businesses to get up with the systems. And I think that's a great segue to everything that we have to chat about today.
Well, let's get into the news. What's going on? I think this is going to be our Neobank news or nonsense episode. A bunch of neobank news and the first one I wanted to bring up, Stacey, was Revolut, the European neobank. It's launching a new promotional campaign aimed at New York City commuters. New Revolut customers can get 100% cash back, excuse me, on up to 5 single tap to pay MTA rides with their Revolut card as part of the new company's Ride with Revolut promotion. The offer is only being extended to commuters who sign up for a new account in person with a Revolut ambassador in subway stations across New York City. Excuse me. Now let me ask you: you're a Queens girl. I'm not mistaken about that, am I?
Born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens.
Brooklyn,
There
and
we
raised in
go.
Queens. So,
Oh, definitely
can
took mass transit.
can I assume you've been on in the subway in New York City
Absolutely.
from time to time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was my first ride.
And can you even imagine stopping to open up a bank account in the subway?
I cannot. But what's in it for me? If I'm going to get some money back and they are transparent in what they're trying to achieve, I may take it. I may take their offer for the cash back, and then that's how adoption occurs.
Well, okay, before we get into the actual offer itself, I grew up, I was born in Queens, moved out to the suburbs when I was young, but spent a lot of time in New York City back in the day. And I can't even imagine stopping to open up a bank account with somebody sitting in the subway. First of all, I wouldn't even believe it's legit. Second of all, I'm kind of there to wait for a train, get on the train and get where I'm going, not taking out time to talk about, oh, hey, now I get it with the commuters, there's a deal there. But let's think about what the commute is like in New York City. You'd want to just get home or get to work, and you're not wasting it. I just can't see this succeeding in the least bit. The other thing too is it's paying back up to 5 trips. And if you're a commuter, you're probably making 20 to 25 trips. And maybe you're even connecting trains. Who knows what you're doing, commuting in from the other boroughs and stuff like that. So, Casey, I just don't see this working.
I'm curious to see what this experiment is going to be. I think it's obvious. This is, Revolut. I think you mentioned it was a European country. I mean, a European company. And New Yorkers, there are a million of New Yorkers. And no matter the socioeconomic class, I'd like to believe, mass transit is your primary means of transportation. It just depending on where you're going to go, it doesn't make sense. So I'll also say that having taken the train in New York City for years upon years upon years, the commuting train system it's its own community. So I could see, just like Jimmy Fallon appeared with Bad Bunny and they were playing some music, I think on 42nd Street subway station, I could see folks selling this concept. And is it going to be successful? I don't think so. I think, to your point, the cash is going to run out. So yeah.
Simon Taylor, who many will know as one of the leading fintech influencers in this space, posted about this the other day on LinkedIn. And I'll tell you what he said, and I agree with one part of it, but kind of disagree with another part. He said, this is starting small, learning from users, gathering feedback. That's the part of it I disagree with. But what I agree with him is that he said Revolut doesn't know who their ICP is, who their target market is. It's a monster organization, but keeps twisting the Rubik's Cube in the US to find something that sticks. And that I totally think is spot on. And in fact, I think it characterizes a lot of the efforts that a lot of the European neobanks that have come into the market, N26, I'm thinking of in particular, Monzo, and they haven't really found the key. I actually had a chance to interview the country head of N26 when they were coming into the U.S. And I asked him, I said, what's the great wrong in the world of U.S. banking that you're going to make right by coming into the U.S.? And he said, well, the U.S., the mobile banking experience in the U.S. is horrible, and we're going to fix that. And I got news. And at that point, Stacey, I got to say, I thought to myself, wrong, you're not going to succeed. It's not a horrible experience. It's maybe not great with some institutions, but the Wells, the Chases, the Bank of Americas, the large banks, they all have pretty good mobile banking platforms. And again, from an American perspective, it may very well be a better user experience, but we don't know it until we actually get to try it. And it's only a small percentage of consumers who are really looking to just open up accounts to try it out. And I've got the survey results to kind of back that up too. So I think that's the key, is that there's been a lot of this flailing around from the neobanks trying to get into the market, trying to find the right niche. And we just actually, Cornerstone just published some research focused on niche or vertical market strategies. And I think that's where both the existing market has to find where its niches are from a growth perspective. And I think the Revoluts, N26s, Monzos, whoever else trying to get into the US is going to find a lot more success with a niche strategy than with a come on, that may get a few people to sign up, but ultimately I don't think will stick.
Not sticking, but speaking about niches, and I think that's, we said this in a previous episode, the riches are in the niches, as I quoted Ashish Garg, I believe, from Altropy. But can we talk about Workday's and Chime's latest collaboration? Because that is a niche that I am for. And I think it's going to cause a lot of uproar as well. So talk to us about that, Ron.
So Chime announced a new distribution channel with Workday, which is one of the leading HR platforms. Great distribution on their part. And it would seem to be a decent partnership. Chime had launched its, through acquisition, its workplace set of services, which are financial tools and banking products, including earned wage access, checking and savings account, financial planning tools that employers can offer to their employees. And I'm, God, I don't want to be a negative Nelly here, or is it nervous Nelly? But I don't know. What do you call somebody who's like negative?
I say negative Nancy.
Negative Nancy? No, my wife wouldn't like that at all. No. We got to
go. We'll use Nelly.
We got to come up with another one on that one. So, hate to sound negative all the time, but this is another one I just don't see it for a couple of reasons. First of all, and not that history is any gauge here, but this is not the first time some financial institution or financial provider, since you can't really call Chime a financial institution, not the first time a financial provider has tried to go through the employer market. And it's never really taken off. It's never been very successful for a lot of providers. But I think more importantly, to Chime's target market, which is the low to middle income consumer. And I would venture to guess, and in fact, I could go pull the data from our surveys to kind of prove this out, that a lot of Chime's customers are gig workers and side hustlers, and they don't have employers. Just they see they're not going to get their products and services through their employers. The whole world of employment is kind of shifting and changing here. So just as much as I don't like Revolut's thing, I don't think Chime's Workday approach is gonna succeed on any scale.
All right, you ready for my dose here?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that Chime, you mentioned not, I'm going to paraphrase here, their folks not being as widely known when it comes to literally understanding the roots of banking, right? And I think Chime is known for what? Just a lot of the financial tools between savings and checking and financial education. So you think about Workday, you mentioned that they are HR, right? Human capital management, also taking doses of financial management, enterprise resource planning, founded back in 2005 by some folks over at PeopleSoft. So they came from a competitor of sorts. So let's talk about Workplace. Let's put Chime to the side for a quick minute. So Workplace serves over 11,000 organizations worldwide, Ron, including more than 60% of the Fortune 500 today. Workday houses about maybe a little over 19,000 employees. And this is according to an article at Newsday. And again, they're providing talent management, right? Your HR, your payroll, your time tracking, employee engagement. They're using pretty much AI at the core of its platform with powered advanced analytics, right? All these buzzwords, automation, intelligent agents for business process optimization. And a lot of their bigger competitors when we think about Workday are ADP, that's a common name, Oracle HCM, SAP SuccessFactors. So the reality is, I think that they are trying to build a holy grail of engagement, and we are in the strategic planning season. And as I'm on the road, Ron, at these strategic planning sessions, a lot of these financial institutions, or even fintechs for that matter, set we will statements. What is their priority? So I believe, as I put this collaboration together, I believe that their strategic priority is to aim to become, a consumer's primary checking account. You've spoken about this before, so I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to ask you: can you tell us what are the indicators or the requirements based on your research that would consider someone to have a primary checking account? Hopefully I said that correctly.
Yeah. So first of all, the answer to that is there are a lot of different reasons that people give for why they consider an account to be their primary account. And it differs a lot by age. Generally speaking, for baby boomers and to some extent Gen Xers, I'm talking now about people over the age of 50, they equate who they do their direct deposit with as where their primary account is. But it's a lot less so for millennials and even lesser so for Gen Zers, who now don't really make that connection between direct deposit and primary account. In fact, direct deposit's often a traditional bank because that's where the connection is, but their primary account is often now, in fact, with about a third of both Gen Zers and millennials consider a digital bank or a fintech or neobank to be their primary bank, and it's not necessarily where they do direct deposit. It's because that's their primary debit card, or it's because it's the one that helps them manage their financial lives. They provide other tools and things like that. So there's just a lot of different reasons for that primary status. And, I want to take this back to kind of the Chime and the Workplace and the Workday connection, because I don't disagree that Workday, not Workplace. Chime's product is Workplace. Workday is the HR system. Workday's got amazing distribution. But Stacey, who are those employees? They're people who probably make decent enough money because they've got a 40-hour week job, and aren't really Chime's target market. And I think that that's the challenge: is that these are not folks, generally speaking, who get financial products through their employer.
Okay, so if we think about the great transfer of wealth that is upon us, right? We think about, yes, baby boomers, Gen Xers, maybe, but folks that are leaving the workplace and then folks that are coming into the workplace. So I like to believe that based on this collaboration, this is going to boost up. I mean, you named it as far as why folks consider their primary checking account their primary. And, going even back to what Workday does. Now you have me confused with Workplace. What Workday can do with Chime. And I think I read as well that their employees will be able to manage their finances, build their credit, and save, and then also add products or services directly from Chime, while Chime is absorbing all this data as well back from Workday and Workday as well. So I think that I wouldn't put my money on what Revolut is doing, even though they're giving some cash back there. I would put my money here, Ron. Seriously, and I think, but again, I'd be remiss to say, or not say rather, when we think about what Chime can do and what they can get away with, I feel like here's the rub. Like community banks, they're the pillars of Main Street and regulatory muscle. So I feel like from a banking perspective, banks face the dual threat of tech partnership and culture shock. Fintech execs, when we think about, drunk on buzzwords, they see an open highway for distribution reach and user growth. I believe that this can probably be commoditization. And I say it's all fun and games until someone asks about data privacy, cross-selling, and whose rail runs under the new empire. So I look at it twofold. From an adoption engagement perspective, I think that this is going to work, but it's going just similar to the Chase data aggregators and what JP Morgan is trying to charge there. This is going to be an ideal use case that will ruffle more feathers.
I'm going to take the other side of this one, Stacey, because number one, I think Chime's got a product problem. I mean, they've got what they've got is great, and they have succeeded with a lot of product innovation over the past couple of years. But they need to expand their products, not just their distribution. They're pretty much just a checking account provider at this point with some features that hang off of it. To grow, to increase profitability, they've got to get into the lending side. They've got to have a credit card capability. They've got to get into some consumer and personal lending. I don't think the distribution hurts them, but it doesn't. This distribution play hurts them, but I don't think it helps them with what they really need to do. Now, to your point about people coming into the workplace, based on the research that we've done, I believe Chime's got a generation problem. They've had a lot of penetration and acceptance from the millennials, but I don't see the same level of adoption and use among the Gen Zers. I don't think you're going to get to the Gen Zers through employers, especially because of some of the long-term employment trends around gig worker and all that kind of stuff. But also, I mean, look what's happening to the Gen Z market from an employment perspective. Now, this could just be a short-term issue, but a lot of folks, and I believe it too, are beginning to believe that the whole AI movement is hurting Gen Z employment. It's not putting other older established people out of work. It's preventing younger people from finding jobs to get in. So got some challenges there. And I think that translates into a less than successful effort from Chime and getting into using Workday as a distribution channel.
Don't you feel that their distribution channel is part of a phase of their bigger game plan, though? Just kind of testing the waters and see who they can adopt and see, who can stick around, and then they can slowly but surely evolve and enhance their own user experience by what the people want, rather.
Yeah, no, listen, you're spot on to that, and we'll give it a year or two, and maybe Chime will prove me wrong. I've been wrong before. I know it's hard for you to believe. It's hard for me to believe it, but forget about the Workday thing for a second. Let's move on from that discussion. There's some other things that Chime has been doing that I know you brought up to me recently, and I think is pretty interesting too, about their connection with musicians. And tell me a little bit more. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure if you know about this, but I'm an R&B girl at heart, of course, New York. And one of the artists that I'm listening to lately is Giveon. He's like R&B / meets classical. And I'm on YouTube just trying to listen to a lot of his new music. And I came across in the algorithm, an interview with Giveon and his mom, and they're speaking about getting real with money. And of course, right at the bottom left of the video, video, you'll see it's Chime's logo. And Giveon and his mother, they're not mentioning Chime. They're just speaking about, as he became an artist and when when he hit big, so to speak, what did that look like? How did his mom receive it? And they were just having simple fun. It's an 11-minute video. And I think it's pretty interesting, as we mentioned in previous conversations, Chime, what they're doing is, and I keep saying the same thing, is that they're adopting as many users, obviously more in the new generation, just for brand's sake. I want to be able to understand and intersect subliminally my favorite artists and who are the brands that they tie with. And I think that they're, again, this is just maybe 0.25%, if that, of their roadmap of trying to become much more prevalent in the banking world.
It reminds me of something that Credit Karma did a few years ago. They teamed up with a rapper named IDK. Does that ring any bells?
Nope, I don't know.
Yeah, my kids didn't know either, and I didn't know him. I got to interview him, though, for a FinTech Snark Tank blog post. But yeah, so are you bullish that Chime can make more of a connection with its target market through this?
Yes, because who else is doing that? I mean, I'll see some banks and credit unions. They're doing what they have to do on LinkedIn and TikTok, but on a scale with an artist like that, I think that fintechs and banks and credit unions alike, they may have to take these influencers, because Giveon isn't being necessarily a finfluencer here, but using influencers and incorporating that brand tie.
Yeah, well, at least I learned something here, because I had no idea who Giveon is or was or anything like that.
I'll
So thanks
send it over.
for that. Okay, listen, I don't want to run the clock out here because there's one more neobank I want to talk about. And I know you want to talk about it too, because you've been a big fan of Nubank out of Brazil. So talk to us a little bit about what they're doing and why you think it's interesting to bring them up.
Oh man. So I'm on LinkedIn the other day, just checking my LinkedIn out, and a post, LinkedIn provides an algorithm, and whoever is very similar to what you say or read, it'll pop up. And I came across Cristina Junqueira. She is the co-founder at Nubank, and she provided a very glowing, review. I'm going to just say a couple of markers here. She said Nubank now serves almost 123 million customers, and she went to say against all odds. She mentioned that their second quarter of this year financial results provided a 40% rise in revenues year over year, and record profitability propelled by their cost-efficient platform. She tied in their reports for the second quarter, the financial results. I took a look at it, and then I just got down a very deep rabbit hole, because in my mind, Ron, I kept asking, how are they doing this? How are they reaching 40% increase? I mean, we're consultants, right? We work with banks, right? We see this, and we often get asked how to do it, right? What is the playbook? And turns out that they developed their own RTP rails, took about maybe 5 years to implement, called Pix. And this is out of Brazil. And they built this, and they thought that the very first step to institute engagement was they wanted to target payments. And then, and on an interview that I saw with their recent hire, vice chair, global head of public policy, Roberto Campos Nieto, he mentioned that he decided to speak to gamers. That was the first step. And he asked these gamers, what do they consider, or what would they consider to be the best concepts when they think about money, receiving money, sending money via their mobile phone. And they piled it down to the concepts were cheap, fast, transparent, open, and secure. Roberto mentioned that these were the core values that they wanted to literally keep just secure and at the foundational footprint, so to speak, before they take off. So I have a couple of notes here, but check this out, and I want to hear your thoughts. So they projected the number of transactions to determine server capacity. He called it maybe 10 million transactions in a day in 6 months or 1 year. And the projected numbers became actual number of transactions within weeks. So today they have 250 million transactions a day. They extracted 40% of the cash transactions out of the market in Brazil. You think about, you go to Brazil, my parents are from the Caribbean, so very similar in Latin America and in the Caribbean, you have a lot of street vendors that are just using cash. So now they were able to extract that because of Pix, right? Because they're able to now scan QR codes and send money instantaneously, right, real time. So from 2018 year to date, they reached 30% of their strategic goals. And quite honestly, like their main strategic priority is to be the number one wallet in Brazil. And now they're tapping, I think, into Mexico. They're working with some folks in Asia. I have more to say about this, but these numbers, and considering that this is a 12-year-old company, this is pretty grand. I mean, the inspiration has been insane considering what we're seeing. These numbers are pretty dope, for a lack of a better word. So what are your thoughts so far? I have more here.
So a couple of reactions to that. First, not even a reaction, but just a shout out to Matera, because Matera was the company that worked with Nubank to build Pix. It is now getting into the U.S. market from a number of different angles. Here's a couple of my thoughts is that, first of all, I'm looking at this through the lens of the U.S.-based bank or credit union. And while the fintech influencers love to point to, the success of Nubank, I don't know that it's really an apples to apples comparison with the U.S. given the banking infrastructure that we've had here versus what Brazil has and has had. But I do think that there's a couple of things that kind of stick out to me here. First is the real-time payment adoption. You referred to it as RTP. We got to be careful because RTP often refers to the company RTP. But if you think about instant payments, many banks and credit unions in the U.S. are still sitting there in receive-only mode, not seeing that there's a huge potential for send opportunities as well. I think that'll change over the next couple of years, and I think the banks and credit unions that get ahead of it. I also love the fact that the Nubank story involved the vertical focus, which we were just talking about,
Yep.
on gamers and understanding what the needs are and often the unique needs of a particular segment. So I think this is where a lot of banks and the credit unions of the U.S. need to learn these lessons about the opportunities for instant payments and the focus on building out capabilities for individual niche markets. Or segments, I should say, really more than markets, but segments.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it so nicely. We can't take Nubank's success and compare apples to a bank or to any shop here in the U.S. Right? We're a much more developed country. We have what is it, Ron? Is it 4,000 banks, right, in the country today, give or take?
And don't forget the 4,000 credit unions too. So
exactly, right. So obviously they tapped into a market where it was underserved and it was unbanked. And this immediately made me think of, I believe his name is Darren Williams. He is the CEO of Southern Bank Corp out of Arkansas, I believe. And his mission is just that, right? And I think about so many others as well, is there is so much potential and opportunity when we think about the underserved and the unbanked areas. And I mean, I went even down to a deeper rabbit hole and just how, what these Pix transactions look like. And these are, I mean, if you think about it, maybe a couple of dollars of transactions, but the amount of people that are using it over and over and over and over again is insane. So, they were able, and what what Nubank is doing right, I believe, is they're making sure that they are consistently investing into the user experience. They consistently say that where they're becoming hyper focused on gathering data. We always say that, right? In the world of AI and tech and innovation, those projects are just as good as your data, right? The details to enhance the user experience, including database, right? The experience, they're testing the experience of less clicking. So I believe they also mentioned, they as in the CEO of Nubank, that their consumers can transfer from an external bank account using one click via the mobile phone. So again, back to you and back to your point is there are definitely some concepts that we can extract here that we can really think about when we are we're in the strategic planning session. We're willing to go ahead and test and learn and test and invest, as I mentioned, with some other AI adoptions or projects. And I think that if we were to really bring this, encapsulate everything that we said in this episode, again, the riches are in the niches. Identify your niche, look at what these pain points still are today, and take a look at that, right? So yeah, this is very fascinating for me. And let's not even think about tokenization and AI that's also on Nubank's roadmap and how that's going to generate efficiency. So they thought about, let's make sure that the rails are working, and then we can then we can go ahead and move on to the next.
Well, let's make tokenization both from a deposit perspective and then also look at it from a stablecoin perspective. We'll bring that up in another episode. Giving you the last word on this one, Stacey. So thanks a lot for all of that discussion, and thanks everybody for listening in. We hope to see you on another episode of What's Going On in Banking.
Thank you, Ron.
If you enjoyed today's What's Going On in Banking podcast and episode, make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're listening. We've got more great conversations coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. Thanks for tuning in.